Click the link in the description to get an exclusive deal with 4 extra months. Head over to the merch store to pick up some character pins, calendars, and more. Also, ever needed to enact vengeance on your enemies, but always felt too shy? Well, fear not. Little Hannibal is here. Support our channel by heading over to oversimplified.youtooz.com and buying your very own pocket-sized piece of vengeance. Our exclusive Hannibal figure is in limited supply, so get it quick. How do you solve a problem like Hannibal? In a crisis such as this, the Romans often turn to religion.
What's going on? Are the gods mad at us? The gods must be mad at us! But why? Why? No, why? 2 of the Vestal virgins broke their sacred oath and lost their virginity. That's why Hannibal's kicking our ass. What should we do with them? Appease the gods! Bury them alive! Who did they even boink? It was those guys! Huh? What should we do with them? Beat them to death!
Needless to say, the Romans were freaking out. Okay, now that that's out of our system, let's go find a real solution. The real solution, first of all, involved raising a new army. Remember, at Cannae, Hannibal had wiped out the biggest army Rome had ever fielded. Possibly 20% of Rome's military-aged men. Rome needed to replace those losses, and fast, before Hannibal arrived at their gates. But where would those replacements come from? Rome had a few ideas.
Quick! Lower the age of conscription! You! Put down those Digimons! You're a soldier now! Enlist all these slaves with the promise of freedom! And equip them with all these religious weapons and armor! Anything we've got! All right, men, you are Rome's last line of defense. Man the walls!
After the earth-shattering defeat at Cannae, the Romans expected Hannibal to arrive at their gates any day now. In Hannibal's camp, the mood was triumphant.
We did it! We won! So when do we march on Rome? Today? I'm free in 10 minutes.
Whoa, slow down. We're not going to Rome. We're staying right here. Are you an idiot, Hannibal? No, I'm smart. We don't need to march on Rome, because after what we did, the Romans are definitely going to surrender. Watch. Hey, Jim Bob. Yes, sir? Go to Rome and discuss peace terms.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I'm here to discuss peace terms.
Piss off! They told me to piss off! What? They didn't surrender? No! And they were mean!
Hannibal was learning that Rome had an unprecedented attitude towards surrender. Even when Hannibal offered to ransom thousands of prisoners back to Rome, a pretty common practice in ancient warfare, the Romans refused, opting to let their own men be sold into slavery rather than paying a penny to the enemy. It was clear that in order to defeat Rome, you had to annihilate them. If any Roman man was still standing, you hadn't yet won. But still, Hannibal decided not to march on Rome, and it was a controversial decision. Even one of his own commanders famously told him, "Hannibal, you know how to win a battle, but you do not know how to win a war." From Hannibal's perspective, perhaps he knew his army was designed to survive behind enemy lines and sow chaos. It may not have been well equipped to undertake a risky siege of one of the most fortified cities on Earth. Plus, with many of the southern cities defecting to his side after Cannae, Hannibal likely thought things were going pretty well, as is. We'll stay the course. Okay, so the Romans didn't surrender after 3 major defeats. But surely they'll surrender after 4. Unfortunately for Hannibal, however, after Cannae, the Romans well and truly learnt their lesson. Well, would you look at that? Remind me, who was it that said Hannibal was too dangerous to fight? You. And who said we shouldn't fight him directly? You. And who tried to fight him directly? Us. And what happened? We lost 20% of our military-aged men. That's right. So tell me, when Hannibal approaches, what do? We run away. I'm a genius! Clap for me! After Cannae, Fabius Maximus kind of became the unofficial leader of Rome. Even if others were elected consul, his influence was unparalleled, and Rome quickly reverted to the Fabian strategy of avoiding Hannibal. They knew they couldn't defeat him, so instead, they hoped they could at least contain him. They raised an impressively large number of men, partly by enlisting teenagers, slaves, and criminals. And rather than trying to fight Hannibal, they instead turned their attention towards those treacherous southern cities that had switched sides. Thanks for joining the winning team, guys. Here's the deal. All you have to do is provide me some troops and defend your own city, since I'll be too busy to defend it for you. Now, I'm going to briefly turn around, look this way, and when I look back, you better not be being massacred by the Romans. Oh, for goodness sake! The Romans spread out their newly formed legions and began attacking the southern cities here, there, everywhere. The southern cities expected to have Hannibal's protection, and Hannibal was inundated with requests for help. He was forced to run around southern Italy, trying to encourage defection while rescuing his own allies. But when he showed up, the Romans would often leave, only to come back the second he went away again. And as these southern cities found themselves being punished severely by the Romans, they began to realize that joining Hannibal may not have been such a good idea.
Hey! You think you're so big? Attacking my allies? Why don't you come out and face me? Because you're scary!
The fickle southern cities frequently switched sides depending on who appeared to be winning, and the whole situation became a nightmare for Hannibal to control, playing a constant game of Roman whack-a-mole to fend off the enemy armies. Having not long ago seemed near extinction, the Romans had managed to turn the situation around by placing Hannibal in a clever predicament. If he left southern Italy, the southern cities would likely capitulate to Rome, meaning he couldn't leave. And since the Romans wouldn't fight him, he couldn't inflict any more dangerous defeats. For now, Hannibal had been muzzled. Southern Italy had been his prize for his impressive Italian campaign. But those clever Romans found a way to take his prize and turn it into his prison. With the Fabian strategy neutralizing Hannibal for now, the Romans were freed up to refocus their attention to other fronts. This whole time, while we've been discussing Hannibal and the Italian campaign of the Second Punic War, fighting had actually been occurring elsewhere. For example, in 216 BC, the Romans had sent an army north to punish the Celtic tribes that had joined Hannibal. However, as the Romans entered the Latana forest, little did they know those clever Celts had set up a trap. The Celts dropped trees on them, decimating the Romans, and they even took the commander's head to use as a religious sippy cup. So that went pretty bad. Whoa, very bad. But thankfully, in other theaters, things were going a bit better. For example, let's look at Sicily. After Cannae, internal chaos in Syracuse caused this longtime Roman ally to switch sides, because being a winner is more fun. The Carthaginians also landed troops, hoping to retake their lost island, while Roman proconsul Claudius Marcellus moved in to besiege Syracuse. The siege was a brutal slug for the Romans, largely due to the presence of one famous scientist and mathematician, Archimedes. He lived in Syracuse at the time, and he invented a variety of clever contraptions to defend the city. There was a giant claw that could grab and destroy Roman ships, and purportedly even a big mirror that could magically ignite them. The Carthaginian forces on the island attempted to come to Syracuse's rescue, but luckily for the Romans, they all got diarrhea and then died. Finally, in the city itself, the day of a big annual religious festival came, and the Syracusans said, "Well, fellas, we've been holding off the Romans for over a year now. I think we've earned ourselves a little party."